So, what was it, last week? I don't know, it might still be going on. This World Economic Forum that is causing all of this mess that's going on in the world today. What is their agenda? Well, their agenda is global governance, as we see right here. A one world government. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people around, including one of my own cousins, that just can't stop using the term New World Order. No, it's not the New World Order. It is the Old World Order under Satan. Global governance. Now, let's go to Daniel 2, I'm sorry. And we'll start in verse 31, where Daniel is talking to King Nebuchadnezzar about his dream, telling him what his dream was because he forgot it, he couldn't even remember it. You, O king, saw and you beheld a great image, this great image whose brightness was excellent. Preeminence stood before you, and the form thereof was fearful. The image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, and his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, and his feet part of iron and part of clay. And you saw till a stone was cut out, not with hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and broke them into pieces. And then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken into pieces together as one at the same time, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floor, and the wind carried them away, and no place was found for them. This is what's going to happen to the Gentile governments of this world. The UN, the World Economic Forum, NATO, the Russian Federation, all of them. But they think that they can bring world unity. They think they can have global governance. No, they can't. And the scripture shows right here in Daniel 2 why it's impossible. I need to go to Babel. All right. The whole earth was of one language and one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar. Oh. It doesn't say from the east, does it? That's why you got to watch King James Version, folks. They journeyed aforetime. And they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they lived there. And they said one to another, let us go make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime that they had for mortar. And they said, let us go build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto the sky, and let us make a name, lest we be scattered. What is the word that I'm looking for? Decentralized. They did not want to be decentralized. They wanted to be centralized. And we have the same thing going on right here global governance. All right? Lest we be decentralized abroad upon the face of the whole earth, and Jehovah, not the Lord, came down. He came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men had built. And Jehovah said, this people is one. They are centralized. They are one. They have one language. And the word is chala, to pierce, to bore. My heart is wounded. So let's look at this here. And accomplished. Nothing would be inaccessible. Not even nuclear power would be inaccessible to them. Nothing would be inaccessible to them if they were allowed to continue. Well, look what we have here today. Nothing is inaccessible. That they have devised to do. Now, Jehovah came down the first time to put a stop to them. He's going to come down a second time to put a stop to them. It doesn't say, let us go down. It says, go down. Confound, or it says anoint. Confuse, confound their language. Well, confound their language, that they may not understand each other. Speech. Jehovah pieces, puts, which means to scatter them. He dispersed them. He decentralized them. Why? Because if he didn't, nothing would be withheld from them, not even nuclear weapons that would destroy them off the face of the earth. It wouldn't take much time. Therefore, the name is called Babel. Jehovah confounded their language and of all the earth, and from there did Jehovah scatter them. That's right, he scattered them, he dispersed them. And he's going to disperse them again this time. The great stone cut out of Jerusalem without hands is going to strike the 10 toes. And they, the clay and the iron mixed with clay, the iron, the brass, the silver, and the gold is going to be like the chaff of the summer threshing floor, and they will be scattered, and no place will be found for them. Right here. The wind carried them away, and no place is found for them, and the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, Jerusalem. And it says, filled the whole earth. We know it's going to grow to 1,500 square or 4 square miles. Now, it says here, this is the dream, and I will tell you the interpretation before the king. This, you, O king, are a king of kings, for a law of Shemein, the heavens, has given you a kingdom, a power and strength and glory, and where the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of heaven, has he given to your hand, and has made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold, and after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to you, that was the Medo-Persian Empire. And the third kingdom of brass shall also bear over all the earth. That would be the Grecian Empire under Alexander the Great. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. That is Rome. That is Rome as the, what is it, the Claudio Julius dynasty, beginning with. Alright? As iron breaks into pieces and shatters everything, iron breaks, all these shall break, shall shatter, and crush. And whereas you saw the feet and the toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, this is where the papacy was established. The kingdom shall be divided, and indeed it is. Not only is it divided as 10 toes, but also as 2 heads now of the false prophet. The so-called papacy in Rome and the so-called patriarchy that was once in Constantinople but is now in Moscow. And they are threatening using the shield of NATO versus the shield of the Russian Federation to wipe each other off the face of the earth. While we have the World Economic Forum talking about global governance. Let's continue. And whereas you saw the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but it shall be in it the strength of the iron, absolutely. For as enough strength to wipe people off the face of the earth. As you saw the iron mixed with miry clay, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so shall the kingdom be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas you saw the iron mixed with miry clay, now King James Version says, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but shall not cleave to one another, because iron is not mixed with clay. They correctly added mingle themselves because, if we read it this way, as it's written, because you beheld iron mixed with miry clay, to become the seed of men. So the seed of men will become like iron mixed with miry clay. They will try to become one. They will try to have centralized world government. But it doesn't work. It cannot work. You see, Jehovah confounded their languages. He decentralized them, and they cannot bring old Babylon back. Let me rephrase that. They cannot bring old Babel back. They are not one people. They are not one language. And they'll never be one people. As you read in Genesis, they were one people. They really were. But they shall not cleave. So the World Economic Forum is a grand delusion. It will fail utterly and miserably. Should not cleave to one another, because iron does not mix with clay. It doesn't work. In the days of these kings, it should read in the end of the days of these kings. Why? Because Jehovah Elohim is going to put an end to those days. Those days shall be curtailed, as is written in the scriptures. So, words of wisdom, say in your heart, in the end of the days of these kings shall the Eloah of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to another. Another people. But it shall break into pieces and end. Fulfill. The time of the Gentiles will be fulfilled. Ended. To put an end to. So when you read the words of Paul in Romans 11 verse 25, he says, and I quote, "I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that partial blindness happened to Israel until the Gentiles comes to the full." It says fulfilled. Fulfilled in Hebrew is the same thing as put to an end. It's finished. It's over. And so all Israel shall be saved. Now, we also have here, what is this? Peace and resilience, curation, interpeace. When they shall say peace and safety. Resilience means to be able to bounce back from war, destruction. And indeed, when they start firing nukes at each other, they are going to try to bounce back. Because you see, the kingdom is going to be established in Zion, in Jerusalem. The Christians will call this kingdom the kingdom of the Antichrist. They will, in their own minds, bounce back and have one last Christian crusade. And they will be destroyed. When they shall say peace and safety, sudden destruction shall come upon them like a woman in travail, and they shall not escape. The capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. Well, they won't have that capacity. That is a delusion as well. Now, that brings me to this. So, I pointed out to you that many times I will go, I don't know what more I've got here. Probably somebody said responded to me again, but I'll just go over this for now. I like to go on some of these YouTube channels and give my opinions on certain things. Alright? And partly do this to troll people. To troll them in this conversation. I will do whatever it takes, folks, to get the message out. And look at this. So this fella John Duke is not sticking with the subject matter at hand, but he wants to take issue with New Covenant is for Israel. The title of this YouTube channel. So here's what he says. The covenant is not for Israel, the country. Hope you know. Well, he stepped in it. Of course, I'm going to have an answer for him. John Duke, Romans 11 verses 25 to 27. Please do not be ignorant that partial blindness has happened to the nation of Israel until the time of the Gentiles ends. Fulfilled means ends. And then all Israel, the nation, shall be saved. For out of Zion shall come the deliverer, who will turn unrighteousness from Jacob, because this is my new covenant unto them. See Jeremiah 31 verses 31 through 34. I dare any of you. And also, those of you who hate the words of the prophets, fine. Read the words of Paul in Hebrews 8 verses 8 through 12. When I shall take away their sins. And so I asked him, what part of the new covenant for Israel do you not understand? Then his response was this. He said, and I quote, God said that he would make them know that he loved them, the church of Philadelphia. My answer was, at John Duke, false. Yehoshua said that. God, is the national idol of the Geats. And I love how you folks like to bash my videos and you want to bring up race. It's not about race. Then why are you serving the national idol, a racial idol, of the sons of Japheth? The national idol of the Geats, Norsemen, Celts, and Gauls, aka Gog and Magog. So are you suggesting that by loving the congregation in Philadelphia, Yehoshua does not love his own people, Israel? I provided you proof by Paul's own words that Jehovah, the Abba, loves Israel for the patriarch's sakes, and you still hate Israel? Just exactly which side are you on? And I don't know, I might have, oh, looky here. You see what they do? Here's another one. Oh, believers is the metaphorically Israel. They believe the lie, so it's not really. Kind of like the serpent said to Eve, did Jehovah say that you shall not eat, or how was it, can eat of every tree in the garden? And Eve says, not every tree, but the one in the midst of the garden we shall not eat, neither shall we touch, lest we die. And then the serpent said, you shall not surely die. It's metaphorically, after all. Because if you shall not surely die, by default it's metaphorically. So they're using the same serpentine language of the devil in the beginning when they say metaphorical Israel. And then he does this. The anti comes before Christ. The Antichrist is Moshiach. I told you folks, and I know that some of you probably thought that I'm speaking out of turn, that I'm being outrageous when I say that Israel's true Moshiach is the Christian's Antichrist. Well, now you have Christians actually coming out and saying it. Here he is. The anti comes before Christ is Moshiach. And I don't care what he says or what Rabbi Schneerson says. I don't know who Rabbi Schneerson is. And Rabbi Schneerson may be right. I haven't looked at his writings. The only writings that I'm looking at for prediction of salvation for Israel is the scriptures. Both the old scriptures and the new scriptures all say the same thing. I only have one rabbi, that's Yehoshua. So whatever Rabbi Schneerson says, it doesn't matter to me. He's saying we're just waiting for the proper red heifer to come along and build a third temple. No, there will be no red heifer coming along. And the third temple was already built. You have Solomon's temple, that's number one. Help me out, folks. You have Zerubbabel's temple, which was number two. And then you have Herod's temple, which is number three. Now, the last I checked, 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. It does not equal 2. Now, the Jews, including the rabbis, are partly blinded. But you Christians, you have gone for full delusion. And the fact that in every Christian nation in Europe, Sodom and Gomorrah is uplifted and hailed as righteous. Every Christian nation in Europe you have men calling themselves women and women claiming the equal rights to men. This is the grand delusion. This is the lie. This is what believing the lie has led this world, the Christian world, into. At the precipice of wiping each other off the face of the earth. There's not going to be any waiting for a third temple. There's not going to be any waiting for a red heifer. The scripture plainly states that when the times of the Gentiles come to the end, all Israel shall be saved. No matter what your preacher says, So what's going to cause the time of the Gentiles to come to the end? When they end themselves, when they start, well, I guess we'll just have to start doing this. Yo, let's go to Yo. Here's how they're going to end themselves. Oh, I want to go to 2. It shall come to pass in the after part, in the following part, that I will pour out my spirit upon flesh, your sons and your daughters, speaking to Yo. They will prophesy, and your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. On my servants, on my handmaids, in that day I will pour out my ruach. I will show a portent. There's no red heifer here. A portent. A wonder, sign, portent in the sky. And here it is, folks. It is indisputable. And in the earth, blood, fire, and timara, palm-like columns of smoke. Now, for reference, what you need to do is go to my video. Let's see here. All right. Where? Okay. Right here. Check out this video. Blood in the sky, blood on the earth. And here is your blood in the sky, blood on the earth, and palm-like column of smoke. There's proof number 1. Proof number 2. We'll get to proof number 2 in a minute. The sun will be turned dark, and you people driving your electric vehicles, and you have Europe, especially Europe, but not just Europe, relying more and more and more on solar power. Your solar power is coming to an end, and the moon into blood before or facing. This is not 100 years before. This is not 10 years before. It is minutes before the great and terrible day of Jehovah come, or maybe a year. Could be a year. There's some evidence to suggest it in I believe it's Revelation 11, year, month, or 12. Those who proclaim the name of not the Lord, and I'll say it one more time, not the Lord, not Jesus, not God, but as you see right here, Jehovah shall be delivered to Mount Zion, shall be taken to Mount Zion. You're not going to be raptured and flit away off to heaven forever and ever and ever. Why is that? Because it is written in John 3 and verse 1, no man has ascended up to heaven except he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven. So all your lies, your Christian lies about going to heaven when you die, are just that, lies. Those who call upon the name of Jehovah shall slip away, shall be delivered, shall be taken to Mount Zion, Jerusalem, because it is there that will be deliverance, because Jehovah said so. I know you Christians, you think you're better than Jehovah. You think you're greater than Jehovah because Satan told you something different. Just like Satan told you that not really Israel, but metaphorically Israel. The survivors Jehovah shall call. Now we will go to Haggai. Another proof. Haggai 2. In the 24th day of the 9th month, in the 2nd year of Darius, came the word of Jehovah by Haggai the prophet, saying, what about the 24th day of the 9th month? No, we're not talking about the Gregorian calendar or the Julian calendar. We're talking about the Hebrew calendar. That would be, I believe, the day before Hanukkah. Jehovah of hosts says, ask the priests concerning the Torah. If one bears holy flesh in the skirt of his garment, and with his skirt do touch bread or pottage or wine or oil or meat, to be set apart. And the priest answered and says, no. Then said Haggai, if one is unclean by a dead body, and touch any of these, shall it be unclean? And the priest answered and said, it shall be unclean. And yes, so Israel is unclean by living amongst the Gentiles. Oh, I know you Christians, you gnash your teeth when I say these things. But that's your fault, not my fault. I'm just telling you the truth. Then answered Haggai and said, so is this people. So is this people, this nation, the people of Israel, before me, says Jehovah. And so is their every work, and that which they offer here is unclean. Now set this day and upward from before the stone was laid upon a stone in the temple of Jehovah, the day before Hanukkah. Come in to a heap of 20 measures, but they were 10. And when one came to the press fat to draw out 50, there were but 20. You were smitten with blasting and with mildew and with hail in all your labors of your hands. Uttered, declares Jehovah. Does not say, but you turn not unto me. It just says, utters Jehovah. Now set this day and upward, the 24th day of the 9th month, the day that the foundation of Jehovah's temple was laid, set it, put it in place. Why? Because this day, that is the day the blessing will come. And again, the word of Jehovah came to Haggai in the 24th day of the month. Came on the same day. Another word came to him, saying, speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Yehuda, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth, and I will overthrow the throne of the kingdoms. I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the who? Gentiles. You know, the ones who are calling themselves metaphoric Israel today. He's going to destroy the kingdoms of the Goy. How is he going to do it? I will overthrow their chariots, those that ride in them, and the Sus, their warbirds. And their riders shall come down, everyone by the sword of his brother. World war. And we have warning red lights all around us right now, and the World Economic Forum is talking about world peace and one world government. Right smack dab in the middle of the 10 toes of Europe, Davos, Switzerland. In that day, says Jehovah of hosts, I will take Zerubbabel, means begotten in Babylon, my servant the son of Shealtiel, says Jehovah, and I will make you a sign. I will choose, says Jehovah of hosts. What is that sign? Those that are begotten in Babylon. You see, Zerubbabel took them out of Babylon. He's going to do this when he brings this plague of the Gentiles destroying each other. With what? Let's go to Zechariah 14. What's this thing? Where are you, Zechariah? I'm on Zechariah. There you are. 14. Now, Jerusalem this event occurred. But the other half has not occurred. The other, at that time, Jehovah will come and the Kodesh with him. As it states in Isaiah 60. The Kodesh are the people of Israel. But right here, it says this. And this shall be the plague wherewith Jehovah will smite the people that fought against Jerusalem. Who fought against Jerusalem? Rome, Persia, the Byzantines, the Turks, the Ottomans, the British. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet. How is he going to do it? Everyone against his brother. You say, oh, it doesn't, it's not says that right here, Henry. Oh, yes, it does. Their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth, and this is all while they're standing on their feet. Because that day a great tumult from Jehovah shall grow firm on them. And that is happening right now as we speak. This great tumult that is happening right now is growing firm upon the Christian nations, the 10 toes, and everyone who has fought against Jerusalem. It will be everyone on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. And look where it started. Russia versus Ukraine. Brother against brother, just like it was written in Haggai 2. And Yehuda will also fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the Gentiles round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. And this plague is going to fall upon all the animals of all the cattle, the donkeys, the camels, the horses. All of them are going to be dead by this plague. Nuclear warfare. And if that's not enough, one final proof, and your checkmate, you Christians. Revelation 9. Oh. And the sixth messenger sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before Elohim, not God. Just because King James Version wanted to change the name, that doesn't mean the name changed. Saying to the sixth messenger which had the trumpet, loose the four messengers were bound in the great river Euphrates. And what have these people been doing but trampling all over the great river Euphrates for the last 15 years? They thought nothing was going to happen. So the four messengers were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay a whole third of mankind. There is no weapon that man has formed against himself that can slay a third of all mankind until nuclear weapons were developed. Now you see why central planning leads to utter destruction. Central human government leads to utter destruction. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 2, not 1,000, to 10,000. 10,000. What does that mean? Myriads and myriads. Now, Jonah says he heard the number of them, but he didn't say it. He said 2 myriads, 2 myriad. So 2 myriads. That's what he said. And I saw the horses in the vision and them. No, not them that sat on them. I saw the horses in the vision to be seated. That which was seated on them. That which was seated on them. Where is it? I got to go further back, don't I? How is that possible? No. I had... Oh, there it is. Okay. That which was seated on this horse, you see. Alright? That which was seated on it had breastplate of fire, jacinth, and brimstone. And I did several YouTube videos and BitChute videos about this. And the heads of the horses were as heads of lions. They were wide. Horses have narrow and long heads. And out of the mouth came fire. What is is this? I need to blow it up somehow. There it is. All right. So this is the mouth, right here. If I can, as you can see, this sets down. This is not the yards. This is a different one. But it sets down in the mouth. And fire comes out of the mouth. All right? Having a breastplate of fire. Jacinth and brimstone. Brimstone is yellow. Jacinth is black and yellow or black and orange. As I did an entire video on that. And once again, you see right here. Oh, that didn't help. You can see right here black and yellow or black and orange. That's the color of jacinth. All right. Black and yellow or black and orange. You see? But there's always black in there. There's a black, there's orange, and yellow. All right? In this particular case, it's black and yellow. What do we have here? We have the breastplate of fire right here. Black and yellow or black and orange. The ribbon of St. George or Gog. And now we have this coming from Russia. If Western deliveries of weapons continue, we will draw the appropriate conclusions and use new weaponry, of which we have plenty. What weapons have Russia not used in Ukraine? Nuclear.
Применять свои средства поражения, которых у нас достаточно для того, чтобы...
And we will strike at targets that have not yet been struck. Well, we know what that means. Outside of Ukraine. This thing is going to escalate. This appears to be the tumult that Jehovah is going to bring upon the Gentiles. There's no getting around it, folks. You cannot use that term spiritual Israel anymore. You Gentiles chose the lie. You rejected the new covenant for Israel. You rejected the salvation of Israel. Therefore, since you hate the new covenant will be taken from you. Since you hate salvation for Israel, salvation will be taken from you and given back to Israel. You Christians, Orthodox Christians, Catholics, and Protestants, will fight a war that you cannot win. You will lose, you will be destroyed, and you will become like the chaff of the summer threshing floor, driven by the wind, and no place will be found for you. It is not me saying so, it is the Scripture that says so. You can hide behind that cross, that mark of the beast, all you want to. That cross is not going to save you. There's only one name under the sky that any man can be saved, and that name is not Jesus. It is Yehoshua. Because in the name Yehoshua is Jehovah's name, and the other half of that name is salvation. But what you Christians have done, if you go look up in Martin Luther's book, the Shem HaMephoresh, look and read in that book and you'll see that the Christians despise that name, that they trampled that name underfoot. A name. The only name where anyone can be saved. So, you asked for it, you shall receive judgment in full.